Yeah, ITIL means infrastructure infra library. So it's work on only production environments. So these are the three teams: change management team and the incident management team. So problem management team. So why incident change management team? Change management team involves the, so if you want to do anything on the production, definitely we need to involve change management team and get the approval from the change management team. And like every day they are conducting the cab meetings. Every day they are conducting the cab meetings. Cab meetings. So what is cab? Change advisory board meetings. So change advisory board meetings. Something like I have created something like a change 320 something like CHG 456 something like CHG 5678. So these are the my change request. So who will approve this change requests? Guys, who will approve this change requests?
Management.
Yeah, change management will approve the change request. Change management team will approve the change request. So when it will be approved? So when it will be approved, something like in the change management, in the change request. So something like, so something like a short description. Short Short description means, so beta deployment, something like, so orchestration, whatever we so this is the short description. Okay, so this is the description. So this is the description. So what we are doing in the change, what we are doing, something like we are doing a deployment. So something like a change task, something like we are doing so beta deployment. So the task, how we can do that deployment. So then rollback. So something like if you deploy a change on that production environment, something like it will not work, something like it will not work, something like a change not work after deploying the something like whatever it may be, the application will not work. So then what needs to do? So we need to rollback. Rollback means what is rollback?
Go to the previous.
Yeah, previous
Previous version.
Yeah, previous version, something like we something in the change environment. So we deployed a new version, but so it was not work for after deploying the production. So then rollback, after rollback, so it will work, right? So we need a short description, a change task, and rollback. So then only the change management team will approve the changes. Now you got it right, guys? Yeah, so this is the change management. So something like a incident management. So incident management, for example, Linux administrator, whatever the administrator, a incident. What is the incident? Suddenly occurrence. Suddenly occurrence. If he has a issue or something, like if he has a crash or something, like our hardware crashes. So what we need to do? So we need to involve the team. So we need to involve the team, something like a NOC team. What is that? Network operations team. NOC team involved and get in touch with the so what is the problem? Something like this problem goes to a network engineer or a VMware engineer or a Linux engineer or a Windows engineer. So they will call us and get started a bridge call and involve all the people who are involving in these people and sort it out. This is the incident management. A number of occurrences is nothing but a problem. So it's a one-time issue is nothing but a incident. So number of occurrences. So the problem will occur again and again. That is nothing but a problem. Okay, guys. So these are the three main roles in the ITIL: in change management, incident management, and problem management. So you guys can search on the Google or YouTube, then you will get the more clarity about this. Right, guys? So basically, we involve DevOps people are involved only the change management team. So now you got it right, guys. What is change management? What is change? What is change management team? Who approves the change? How we can proceed with the change? Deployments with change. Guys, understood?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah. Guys, SVN and Git, CVCS, DVCS. So CVCS means centralized version control system. DVCS means distributed version control system. What this is? Source code management tool. Source code management tool. So what is source code, guys? Guys, does anyone knows?
What was the question?
So what is source code?
Source code is the code that is built by developers.
Very good.
It's like a backend code
Yes.
mostly, but it can be any code. I mean, like a website code and anything.
Yes, very good.
So, are you supposed to know about this coding? I mean, not knowing coding, but know about the coding. You know, I mean, what kind of files they use.
We don't want.
But we work with developers all the time, right? When in the
Yeah,
when in
yes.
dev. So, but what if they have questions and we don't understand, and what we explain they don't understand? How you will bridge the gap?
Yeah. So developer doesn't ask any questions related to development, right? So because of development team doesn't know how DevOps works, right?
Mhm.
They doesn't know.
But then, who gives us the requirement on developing the infrastructure? Like what kind of server they need, what kind of packages they need? You know,
Yeah.
like what version of Java they need, all those things. Like if they
Yeah.
need Python.
You guys, so initially I already told you, right? SDLC.
SDLC, software development lifecycle.
SDLC. So development lifecycle. In the development lifecycle, I already told you, right, guys? In the so Mirza, you attended that.
I think I did.
So you attended the demo video? You see, analyze, plan, design, build, test, deploy. So build a design, the design plan. So before design, so they have a plan, right? So first we need to analyze. For example, it's a WhatsApp. So initially WhatsApp came for only so messages, right? Something like it's a mobile message, try or something like. But
Right.
yeah, so one guy think as one guy is having a thought like we need to create a app for these messages, right? So then he analyze everything. What is the cost, how it works, a send and recipient, how you get the recipients, how you know you guys is received the message. So they analyze and they can create a plan, right?
Right.
In the plan they will decide so which software needs to develop this. For example, so initially everyone thoughts like thinking like something like we need to use the open source tools, right? And get it done. So something like in that they are deciding what are the versions and everything. The architect team and business team. So business team give the requirements and architect team provide the architect level, something like a design,
Right.
plan and design. Then they will build and test and deploy. So build is nothing but the develop coding. Okay.
Yeah.
Now you got it right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Howie,
yes.
the developer participate on the analyze also.
No. They don't.
Oh.
They don't participate. But
Okay.
development team architects are there.
Okay.
So they are well versed about the softwares, right? Who are well at softwares. Something like which software is easy to use. Something like so which version is good for that softwares that they can analyze.
Okay.
The architect teams are so after business, the architect teams are analyzing the which software needs to use and get it done.
Okay.
In the SDLC they will so something like these are the software guys developing the code and push it to a source code management tool. So a source code push it to the repository, something like, for example, this is a repository. This is a repository. So Git is a repository, SVN is a repository. This is the repository. So they are pushing their code from the laptop to a repositories. So what are the repositories? Git is a repository. So this is a source code management. This is the repository. What is this? A repository. So repositories are SVN, Git. So before DevOps, who is the popular? SVN is the popular. Before SVN, CSV is there, log4 is there. So they have multiple features, multiple benefits. Something like, for example, CSV, centralized version control system, and Git is a distributed version control system. So what is the difference between SVN and Git? What is the difference between CVCS and DVCS? Guys, tell me, what is CVS? Guys, what is CVCS? I'm asking about abbreviation.
Centralized version control system.
Yeah.
What is written on your screen?
So
I'm just reading it from your screen.
Yeah. So DVCS means a distributed
Version control system.
Yeah. So what is the difference between CVCS and DVCS? These two are the source code management tools. Guys, source code management tools. Source code means a code. Who are developing the developers? So that is the code. So its name is something like call it as a repository. Git repository, SVN repository. So again, who developed Git? Does anyone knows, guys? Who developed Git? Who developed Linux?
Linux Torvald.
Oh,
Again, Git also developed by
Linus?
yes.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow, this
Oh.
guy's not. Wow.
So he is hesitated with SVN. Then he tried to create a Git. So again, Git is a open source. Guys,
Yes.
Yes.
so Git was originally authored by the Linus Torvald in 2005 for development for the Linux kernel, with other kernel developers contributing its initial development. Since 2005, Juhino Hamano has been the core maintainer. Okay, so who developed? Linus Torvald. Yeah. Guys, slowly you guys understand, right? Git. So who Git developed? So something like Git developed Linus Torvald. Something like it's released as a open
Source.
So open source means again? Guys, tell me, open source means? I already told you, right? In the
Open
Open
source
source.
is something that you can take the source code and you can customize it according to your requirement.
yeah,
Yeah.
very good. Mija, you are good. Yeah. It's really it's really something like so something like that is the good answer. Something like the first.
Yeah.
But we need to remember what is open source. Open source means a free of cost, and again the second one is source code.
That is open for all.
Source code available.
Available.
Source code available. So free of cost means it's a free of cost. So that's again second source code available. What is source code? So source code available means so whatever we want we can customize whatever we want. So we can customize whatever we want. So Git also a something like a CLI. So
No,
like
Sorry, I would like to share one story about Linus Torvald. I'm not sure if you already told
yeah,
this or
tell
not,
me,
but
tell me.
actually this guy Linus Torvald is from Germany, I think. So he came to America to do his studies, But at that time, there was no free Unix system. Everything you have to buy, and IBM was the one who was selling Unix stuff. So
Okay.
he got very frustrated. He couldn't afford it. So that's how he created his own Unix version. He took the Unix kernel and made its own Linux for his own self.
Yeah.
But it got so better, over the time that it became Linux. That's why, everything he creates, it's like open source.
Yes.
He
He
creates that
frustrated.
people very frustrated with people who charge money for
Yeah.
every each and even for a small thing. And big things I understand, he understand, but for little things, when people charge for license fee, right? He hates
Yes.
it. That's why even Git is open source.
Yes.
That's his
So, but
inspiration.
yeah. So something like what I heard him something like so Linus Torvald is so something like a Linux is a commutator for Microsoft. So because of Microsoft every product will be a commercial, right? So he frustrated and he released as a something like a the first voice is Minix. So Minix have some challenges, something like some challenges. So then again you overcome the challenges and he's thinking like so what could be the best name for that Linux? So he took from first four letters of his name, Linus. First four letters of his name, NU, and so so how it created from the Unix, right? He took from the last letter of the Unix. That's the reason the name it called as a Linux. The first four letters of his name and the last letter of Unix and took that and created as a Linux OS. Yeah, so Git CLI also a open source. The something like a Git CLI took that source code and created the some of the GUI environments. GUI environment, something like Bit bucket. You guys heard about that Bit bucket?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Bit bucket, who developed that? Taken that source code and developed that Atlassian. I think Atlassian, you know, right? So this is Jira. So who developed Jira? Atlassian. I saw something like Atlassian where it, yeah, you see Atlassian. So who developed Jira? Who developed Bitbucket? Bitbucket. Okay, so this is my repository. This is my repository Bitbucket. Who developed Bitbucket? Atlassian. Atlassian developed Bitbucket. So it released as a GUI. Released as a GUI. Guys understand? So Git CLI means so we can run the any command by using CLI, right? Command line interface. But something like Atlassian took that code and created a GUI version. What is that? GUI version means you can run any command through. So something like we can run something like here. You see, so here this is the repository. So something like how we can clone by using git clone, git commit, git add. So these are the commands, but how you can create it, you can create it like as a GUI, branches, commit, source code, everything. Everything will be a commands, but they created as a GUI environment. They created a button for that commands. Okay, guys, understand?
Yeah.
The next, so Bitbucket, something like a next GitLab, the same way GitHub. These guys, these three are, so GitHub is, so initially I don't know, but now it acquires a Microsoft. So what is this, guys?
GitLab.
So in my company, we are using GitLab. So for source code management, so we are using GitLab. Now you understand, right, guys?
Yeah.
In my previous company, we are using Bitbucket. We are using Bitbucket, something like that's the reason you see. So Bitbucket dot BLUJAY solutions dot. Sorry. So Bitbucket dot BLUJAY solutions dot project dot reports dot resources or something like. So this is my previous company. So and GitHub. Yeah.
Yes.
GitHub also, yeah. So GitHub also one of the source code management tool. Source code management a tool. Source code management tool. So these are the commands. So CLI, what are the commands? How Linus Torvald developer git init, git add, git commit, git branch, git push, git push. But here everything will be GUI. Everything will be buttons, right? So now you got it right, guys. So took that source code and created their own source code management repositories. Bitbucket is one type of repository, GitLab is one type of repository, GitHub is one type of repositories. Now you got it right, guys.
Please, sir.
Sorry, what about the Azure DevOps? Now we
We are
using
DevOps is
Azure DevOps.
Azure
All
also
the
created their own
deployments we are doing with, yes, Azure DevOps.
ADO. Azure.
Please, sir, between Bitbucket, GitLab, and GitHub, which one is the best?
So yeah. So
I think it depends.
yeah.
I
No,
think
no,
it
I'll tell you.
depends.
A good question. Who is asking?
So it's a wow.
Yeah. So I know something like initially these are for only for copying the code and everything. But nowadays they are adding the CI/CD into the Git. CI/CD. CI/CD, the only popular for GitLab. Initially, it is a GitLab. So nowadays, for Git actions. So Git actions in GitHub. So everything will be in the one solution. Everything will be in the one solution. You see, something like this is the GitLab. GitLab having a CI/CD in the pipelines. Every day we are running the pipelines. So CI, something like Git. Initially, Git is for only these repository files, commits, branches, tags, contrib. This is the only branches who commit to for coding, pushing the code and pulling the code purpose. Initially, they are using, but so they are something like they are created a CI/CD. They have created a CI/CD inbuilt CI/CD here. The same way Madhuri told like that Azure also created a Azure repository, Azure CI/CD. The same way Git, Bitbucket, these are, so Bitbucket also Git actions. This is the one type of CI/CD. CI/CD also included in the repositories. That is the reason these are the popular one. So initially it started from GitLab. Initially it started from GitLab.
So, is there any benefit of learning Jenkins now? Like now we have CI/CD in
Yeah.
GitHub itself.
Yeah. So if you know the Jenkins, so you can easily understand the CI/CD in the GitLab and GitHub, right? I will show you
This code you are running GitLab or Jenkins?
this. Our code is running in the only CI/CD GitLab.
Okay.
You see
No,
jobs.
the classes. The classes you are learning.
Classes. I will show you in the Jenkins and I will show you the my real time also.
Is there a difference between the GitLab and the GitHub?
Yeah, I already told you, right?
No, I don't remember.
Yeah, GitLab and GitHub, you are asking, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so there is a difference here. There is a CI/CD, but here they are using a Git actions. The CI/CD. You want me to what is your question? Tell me.
The difference, the practical difference between the GitLab and GitHub.
Yeah.
I know you said they're all
Initially, yeah. Initially there is no concept of CI/CD for GitHub. So after who introduced first something like a GitLab is introduced the CI/CD and that their repository, right? So something like they included the CI/CD into the GitLab. So that's the reason initially GitLab is popular. So then again Bitbucket, GitHub, everyone is something like a copying, right? Or something like how the movies are the same like a copying. Here also the projects also something like so CI/CD. GitHub also thinking. So we need to include CI/CD in the GitHub also. Then they realized and they created as a Git actions. Git actions are the actions for deploy something like CI/CD. It's a CI/CD tool. Now you got it?
Well, but they both sound same, right? I mean, how the company decide which one to use?
Yeah, that's why I want
something
to
like something like
Yes, that's my question. Like,
something like one is cost perspective, right? So the cost. So the first thing is cost optimization or cost perspective they are using, and then something like our architect is most familiar with something like a GitLab. So what he suggested, GitHub or GitLab? What he suggested, guys?
GitLab, because he knows GitLab.
Yeah. So because of if you want to do anything, something like, so if you suggest GitHub, so something goes wrong. So how you can analyze, right? So one is cost perspective, the other one is other familiar. So the architects are familiar with the which one. So they taken, so it's a varies from company to company. Some guys are most well at something like a GitHub. They are suggesting as a GitHub. Something like most of the some guys in the very some in the different projects. Some guys are well at Bitbucket. They suggested a Bitbucket.
We don't have to learn anything like deep down. I mean, we can just know a little bit of everything, and that's good enough.
Yes. No, don't go to deep dive.
And depending on some particular requirement, we can deep dive at that time itself.
Yes. I will show you.
Usually GitLab is for like open source. It's only for like just self-hosted repository. But
Yeah.
GitHub is like more of futures, like larger pool, active, those all.
Yes. So something like GitLab is a open source. So something like and
It's only
GitHub.
for self-hosted.
Yes.
Repository.
GitHub is something like a GitHub is I already told you, right? Who acquired GitHub? Microsoft. So every Microsoft product will be a commercial. So we need to buy the license before we can use.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So based on that, something like what is the open source? So which one is the most familiar? Something like which one is something like accurate? Whatever the regions, based on that.
And please, all these tools, do they have the same commands?
Yeah,
Yeah.
same. I will show you how to run the Git by using CLI. So then you can get everything. Guys, I will show you 3 environments: Bitbucket, GitLab, and GitHub. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, guys, now you understand, right? What is a source code management tool?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Then, so how you can install? I will show you one thing, right? Yeah. Guys. Yeah. So Git is where the Git is work. So this is CI, this is CD. So Git is for CI, continuous integration code, where we can. So here you see a plan and code. In the plan and code, the Git is using SVN and Git. Okay. Yeah. So the first stage, DevOps stages. The first stage is version control. So Git is a version control system, VCS. VCS means version control system. Guys, remember this version control system. Version control system. So what is source code management? Source code management maintains different versions of the code. Maintains different versions of the code. Source code management. The management of the changes to the documents, computer programs, large website, and other collection of information will be in the source code management. A centralized version control system, a distributed version control system. So what is this? A centralized version control system, distributed version control system. So what is the difference between centralized version control system and distributed version control system? A centralized version control system is a SVN. So SVN is only one server. So we can create it as a repository. So in that server, from a working copy. So working copy means something like these are the developers. So PC, PC2, PC3, these are the workstations and developers. So developers commit that code and update that code. Commit, update, commit, update, commit, update, commit, update. Something like so something goes wrong on this. A server side. So server is nothing but so you can create it. Server is nothing but something like a server. We created one server and installed SVN in the SVN, and it treated as a repository. So you treat it as a repository. So everyone is committing this, everyone committing and downloading, updating, committing. For example, the server, right? Hardware having a hardware, something like this crashes. So crashes the server. So then code will be gone, right? If server goes down, so the code will be gone, right? So we need a solution for this. We need a solution for this. This is the solution. So this is a centralized version control system. This is the distributed version control system. So what is the advantage of the distributed version control system? So something like every every developer having the working copy, and the repository. So local repository, every developer having the local repository as well as working copy in the laptop or a PC. A PC having a repository and working copy. Repository and working copy. For example, something like your code is in our server. Code is in our server. For example, if the code is in our local repository as well as a server. For example, server goes wrong. Something like server goes wrong, but we have a code in our local repository. So we have a code in our local repository, and we can, if we can create an environment and we can push it to the remote repository. So this is a local repository. This is a local repository. This is a remote repository. So what are the remote repositories, guys? Remote means internet. Guys, tell me. We already discussed. Internet.
Bitbucket,
Yes, very good. Bitbucket, GitHub,
GitHub,
GitLab.
Azure. Okay.
Yeah. So how you can copy your code from local repository to Bitbucket, local repository to GitHub, local repository to GitLab, local repository to GitLab. If these are crashed, of something like something goes wrong, so we have a local repository. So we have a local repository. Local repository is nothing but a local repository is in our lappy having a working copy and local repository. Working copy and local repository. Guys, now you understand? Guys, understand? So something like how it works, something like how it works, something like so. For example, something like so this is the Atlassian Bitbucket. Something these are the a GitHub or a Bitbucket. This is the repository. So how we can push our code to this repository? How we can push our code to this remote repository? This is not a local repository. How we can push it to remote repository? How we can push it to a remote repository? Yeah. So this is the remote repository. For example, everyone having their own a local repository. Everyone having their own a local repository. So how we can push the code? Something like a yeah. So from working copy to commit the code to local repository. How we can commit the code? Commit. I will show you. Yeah. You see, guys, Git is a distributed version control tool that supports distributed non-linear workflows by providing the data assurance for deploying a quality of a software. Something like this is a remote repository. Remote repository means, guys, tell me. So remote repository means
Web repository.
sorry.
Remote repository mean web repository, right?
Internet. Yeah.
Internet repository,
Internet means Bitbucket,
GitLab and GitHub.
GitLab, and GitHub. So local repository are there. Local means in our laptop. First working copy, something like you created some code. You created some code. Git doesn't know that code. Git doesn't know that code. How it knows? Something like something like a git add. Git add. So the code knows if you run the git add command. If you run the git add command, knows the code. Something like it is a staging area. So then we need to send it to a local repository. How we can send it? By using a git commit code. Git commit command. You can use the git commit command. So then he knows, local repository knows it is a git repository. It is a git code. It is a git code. So then it is a git code. So so this is the local repository. Your local repository having a code. How we can push it to Bitbucket, how we can push it to GitHub, how we can push it to GitLab. So we can push it to by using the command git push command. Your code pushed from Git local repository to remote repository. So something like, so we pushed the code, something like, for example, so I am the guy, Mija is the guy, Deshi is the guy, something like Steve is the guy. These three are working on the Bitbucket code. Something like I wrote that code and I push it to Bitbucket. So I want to so something like here in the Bitbucket having a new code, something like so Mirja having a new code. How we can get that new code from remote repository? So by using the git pull. By using the git pull, we can get the code from the remote repository. How we can push the code? So we can push the code by using the git push to remote repository. Git push to remote repository. This is the code pushing, and how we can download the code. So by using the git pull. By using the git pull. These two commands are from the remote repository. So these two commands are for the local repository. Now you got it, guys?
Yes.
For local repository, we are using git add, git commit. Git add, git commit. For remote repository, we are using git push, git pull. Git push, git pull. Push means push the code. Git pull means pull the code. For first getting the code for first time, we can get the code from the repository by using the git clone command. What is the command? Git clone.
Git clone.
Yeah. So first time we can use git clone, then we can use git pull. First time we can use git clone, then we can use git pull, git push. So git pull is for getting the code. First, how we can get the code from the remote repository. How we can get the code from the remote repository. Something like, so this is my repository. Terraform main is my repository. So Terraform main is my repository. So how we can clone this? How we can get the code from local repository? Clone here, clone. So how we can clone? There are two ways: HTTPS and SSH. So we can use HTTPS and git clone, and we can. So if you want to clone the data from remote to local. Remote to local, we need a git install on our local desktop, right? How we can download? Git download. So guys, git download. So git is for Mac, git is for Windows, git is Linux. Something like so you are using Windows, right? Something like this is the 64 Git for Windows setup. Right, guys? You can download this. You can download this and install it. So how we can install something like next, right? Guys?
Yes.
Yeah. So everyone, something like everyone, tomorrow we need to install the Git, right, guys? We can install it.
Okay.
Okay.